Good afternoon. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. My name's Dan. I'm on the customer success team here at Buildxact, and I'm going to be taking you through this Buildxact deep dive, covering things like scheduling, timesheets, selections, and a whole bunch of other new features we've been adding. So essentially that same list again, but just to attach more detail before I launch into it and a few other points. Scheduling, we're going to look at some of the uplifts to the page itself, how you navigate it, a few simple things like color coding and just ease of use features we've added. Part of that we'll touch on is how the schedule now connects with the Onsite app. We will dive into the Onsite app into a bit more detail after that and just look at other Onsite app features. Then we'll look at timesheets, which also connects with the Onsite app. We'll have a look at client-facing selections and how you can have your client pick different options, suggest items that they want to have in their build. And lucky last, we'll cover off digital signatures. Now, this is definitely your webinar, so you guys ask questions as you need. If you could take a quick second just to find the Q&A button that's on the Zoom navigation bar or Zoom menu that you'll have. That's the best way to get questions to me. As I'm going through, I will keep an eye on that. And depending on the question, like if it's on topic and relevant for everyone, I'll definitely answer it live. There are some questions that might come through and a bit off topic or very, very specific to your account and not really the type of thing we should cover in a public setting like this. So fire whatever questions through. I'll kind of judge them as they come in and answer them probably live in most cases. Awesome. Well, let's get over to my Buildxact account, which is over here. Hopefully you can all see it. And the first topic I want to cover is scheduling and some of the uplift we've done to that. So the first point is as part of the schedule change, we've actually added a second schedule or schedule, depending on how you pronounce it in your part of the world. Oh, and while I'm thinking of it, speaking of different parts of the world, this session's open to North American and UK users because we cover some imperial stuff, but different terms are used differently around in different parts of the world for Buildxact features. So if that happens, I will probably do both names for it, and hopefully that captures or at least makes sense to everyone who's on. So yeah, on the topic of the schedule, one of the things we've added is we now have a schedule in the estimate phase or budgeting phase, literally the phase where you're putting the prices together, working out what the job will cost. We also have a schedule in the job phase, which that one's been there for a while. That's not really new, but we have done some uplift work to it. So quick, by way of just distinguishing the two, the schedule estimate or estimate schedule is designed for you to use during the budgeting phase. Its primary uses are for you to have it alongside for the sake of plotting out the time for different tasks. So it's supposed to be helpful in engaging the total duration of the job and how long things are going to take. It has a secondary use where people will also share that that schedule with their client, generally with their proposal. It obviously depends on the client if it's worth sharing to them or the job, but you absolutely have that option. Lucky last point on the estimate schedule versus the job schedule is if you do start an estimate schedule during your estimate and then you later create a job, we drag all the schedule stuff into the job one so that you don't lose it and you don't have to start again. Someone's just jumped into the chat. Good to see you too, Josh. Thanks for joining. Awesome. So that's the first bit, is just estimate schedule versus job schedule. Let's go into the job schedule and go through some of the changes. So these are in no particular order, and if you have questions, just a reminder, sing out through the Q&A button and I can definitely answer them as we go through. One simple one is you can now color code things, whereas you couldn't before. This is getting used by people where they want to do all of the drywall one color, plumbing one color, etc. We're also getting people who don't really color that much, except they use red to highlight really important stuff, either to their team or to their client, whoever's receiving it. So that's one thing you can do. You literally click on the item, change the color. We've also added an internal notes versus reminders. So if I either single click on this and go more options, or I double click, much the same, we've got an internal notes here versus a reminders message here. So previously we only had the reminder message, which if you were assigning people, like I've got Alan here, you can say remind them a couple of days before, and we had a message for that, which could be contact the foreman when you get to site, like here's his phone number. Internal notes is much more just for your use, doesn't really go anywhere other than what you see, and it could be, hey, as part of this work, we've got to really make sure that we sand the joints before the painters come in, because it'll be really obvious if we've done a terrible job. Whatever you want. So that's another one. The other change, and this is kind of a more subtle change, if I get rid of some of these dependencies here, get rid of that, remove and remove. On the top, on the dependencies, we've now changed them a little bit. They used to be that you could only join the end of a task to the start of the next one. We've done away with that. We've done this mainly because more sole purpose scheduling software where all they do is scheduling. We're getting more people come across from those type of platforms, and hence this is something they're asking for. So now you can go end to start, which is good personally, this is the one I generally use. It's good if you want the next task to be reliant on the finish date of the previous task. So that'll be if it goes longer or if it gets moved entirely, it still all syncs. You can go start to start, which I'll try not to create too much of a mess here, but start to start. Real difference is that's just sensitive to the start date. So this is generally better if you want things to both start on the same day and you move it and those start on the same day. If it gets pushed back, so does that. It's really just ensuring tasks stay together. Question, can you still share this with customers so they can live schedule changes in the portal? Good question. The next bit I'll cover is actually a few options around sharing. So I'm going to hold that thought for 1 second and make sure I don't lose it, but I will cover that for you. So dependencies, so booking confirmation and sharing. So these are both 2 different ways of sharing the schedule depending on who you're sharing it to. Now, booking confirmation, what this does is if you've got assigned people, like I do, I've got myself and Alan, booking confirmation allows you to send these people a email that, and when they get the email, it says something to the effect of DNC contracting or whoever you are is requesting that you respond to whether this time suits you. It's worded in that kind of way. And they go yes or no. If they go yes, and I should just send this so I can show you the dummy one. If you send it and they, I'm going to cheat as I do sometimes. I'm going to go to, rather than waiting for the email, I'm going to go to communications and just pick it up. That was where I just sent it. If they say yes, then it goes green here and the status changes. So these guys are both marked as sent because no one's replied to it yet. If I open the email now, which looks like this, you can go accept or decline and accept. We'll just say confirm, it's been accepted. You've accepted work. What that means for you in your Buildxact account, if I go back to the right screen, is you'll see confirmed and the dot will change to green in a second. A super important point on this is if someone confirms and then you subsequently change their task like that, and because all mine are linked together, they all unlink, it will lose that confirmation that someone's confirmed or someone's accepted that because they accepted it for a different date to what the task now sits on, and it will prompt you to send it again. It does that selectively, so it doesn't resend to everyone. It's just the people that are affected by a change that it'll prompt you to resend it to. Awesome. Now, to get to your question, Josh, can you still share this with customers so they can see the schedule in the portal? We still can. It's still not a live schedule. I've had this question a few times of late. So what that means is if you're sharing it to someone, you would be going through the steps of exporting it first to get it into a format that you're happy with. We still have the same two formats, Gantt chart and task list, one being the list and the boxes on the right, and the other just being the list. One thing we have changed over is you can choose the time frame. So where people are doing rolling updates to their client, whether by email or into the portal, you can say, hey, I just want this export to be the next 4 weeks, and that's it. So you would export it and you would put it into the job details tab under the documents. So I've just got random documents in here, and you would go share to client portal. It will be date stamped in the client portal, so the client will know which one's the most recent one. Personally, I find it really useful to add names to them anyway, and just say like October schedule, November schedule, etc. And that way, it's painfully obvious which one's which. On the topic of sharing, and no other questions, so I'll keep moving. Yeah, on the topic of sharing, that schedule can now be shared to the Onsite app, which we got a lot of push for. A lot of questions. Hey, my guys are all using the app. Why can't they see the schedule? Why can't they see the schedule? We got a lot of that. Understandably so, because if you're building this to keep your job on track, and if people can't see it, then it's a bit silly. So under settings, we now have this sync task list with Buildxact Onsite app. Now, what this does is, I'm going to go into job details and cover a few things at once here. The people who are invited to the Onsite crew, which will list on job details, it just says everyone who's in there. Whoever those people are, they will be able to see their tasks when they get to it. Now, I'm going to quickly switch to my phone. And I'm going to be doing this a few times back and forward and back and forward. So hang tight while I do that. Another question come in. Yes, I will share the recording afterwards. So hopefully you guys can see my phone. Looks like it's sharing for me, so I'm going to take that as a good sign. I'm going to go into Buildxact Onsite. And what were we covering? Oh, the sharing from the schedule. So if I go into my Buildxact Onsite, this is under my login. I go into my jobs and the master bathroom. The part I'm looking at is, where are we? View task list and the schedule. I don't know if I can highlight stuff on my phone, but it's right in the middle of the screen there. And this is, I want to make 2 points on this. Number one is I'm a master user, meaning I have a paid Buildxact account, and hence I'm looking at the app from my perspective. If I was to invite someone who, say it's a plumber, they're not paying for a Buildxact account, hence they get a more restricted view. They just see their stuff. So where on my screen you can see demo for me, mold inspection for Alan. Because I am that master user, I see the whole list. Additionally, I can go in. So this is to Josh's question about wanting to show it to the PM. This is a great function for the PM because they can be on site now and tick people's stuff off as they do it. So you can just go in progress or mark as complete. It does give some information about what is dependent on this. So that's more from the perspective of the person on site knowing that, hey, if this takes forever, we're gonna mess up some later tasks. So tick it off as complete, and that in turn updates back in Buildxact. Any questions on that? Obviously sing out. Otherwise, I will get into some of the other on-site app parts. So the next part for the on-site app, and I should also mention, if you do pop a question in about something earlier, not a huge concern. I can circle around and cover different things. I'm pretty used to being flexible, so don't feel like you've missed your chance if we pass on to the next thing. So the next thing about the Onsite app is how do you invite people to it? And I'm gonna share. This is another flick between my phone and my laptop. Back in the job details, you can you can invite people. You can also invite via the phone app, which I'll show you in a second. The main difference is invite crew here runs off your Buildxact contacts. And when you send it, that person gets an email saying, hey, you've been invited to this project. Click here to go accept it and view. Versus if you do it from the phone app, which I'm very quickly going to flick back to. If you do it from the phone app, the person who is invited, you're inviting them from your own phone contacts list, and we send it as a text message. There we go, get rid of that. So it's a slightly different mechanism. Personal preference, I like the one from the main Buildxact because I like to just have this overall list and do it as emails. But if I go to invite crew, which you should be able to see hopefully about halfway up my screen now, this is where you can invite from your phone, and it'll give you, you've probably got a few little prompts from the app as you've started it up. It'll ask if it can access the phone contacts because it wants to text from your phone. Point that I find interesting, but the reason, so there's in North America, specifically the US, there's some really interesting laws around anti-spam. Living in North America and getting a lot of random text messages that are spam, I can see why they exist. But when we send the invite from the phone, it is actually coming from you being sent to somebody else because we are restricted by a law that says Buildxact can't actually text people. It has to come from you. So if it's interesting, bonus point. If not, don't worry about it. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back. Next thing to cover, and I'll keep pushing forward. Next thing to cover just on the app, how that person that you invited will see the invitations. So back on the home screen, you'll see right at the top, view job invitations. Me as the main user going in and looking at my own projects, this is not really relevant for me at all because I'm not getting invited, I'm just auto added. This is, on the other hand, really relevant to people who you are inviting, plumbers, electricians, etc. Moving on from there, on the home screen, you will see create timesheet. I'm going to hold that, put a pin in that for a second. I'm going to come back to timesheets in the next section. But that is absolutely something we've got in the Onsite app that now connects the phone or the phone app to the main Buildxact, and it's quite useful. I will touch on leads, and this is another one that's really applicable to me as the main Buildxact user, but is not applicable to crew. So if you are running around on site or you're doing meet and greets with new potential clients, you probably are familiar with the leads section in Buildxact already. The addition we've done here is that you can add leads just from your phone. And a couple of points on this. You can see one I've already created. From the lead screen, you can go create new as normal. It'll want to know which client is it for if it's not a new one. When you create it, it asks all the same stuff as the main lead screen. So like, what type of project is it? Where is it? Etc. Bonus point that I use quite a bit. Hopefully you can see this little part of my phone. In fact, I'm just going to check that you can. Perfect. Down the very, very bottom right, there's a little microphone. This is an Apple or Android feature. They both have it. It's not a Buildxact feature, but I use it anyway. You can use the microphone to literally talk to the notes. So if you've just done a meet and greet with a new client and you want to rattle off some notes and you have fat thumbs like I do, you can use that recording feature instead, and it's just a bit quicker. Awesome. Was there anything I've missed on leads? As you would expect, you can add images if you've taken site photos while you've done your walk around. You can really just do anything that you would normally be able to do from the lead section in the main, what I'm calling the main desktop version of Buildxact. Now, I'm going to pause for a second there and open some space for questions. So if there's things that I've just covered that you want to ask about, absolutely let me know. I'll pause for just a second. Enough for me to have a sip of tea. So far, so good. Cool. Love it. Thank you, mate. Let's keep moving then. So viewing documents. This is, I'm going to go into a job. My job's down the bottom. And I'm going to see down the bottom of my screen, I've got an image and I've got a document. And I want to highlight a few different things about this. Me as the main, what I'm calling the main user, I'm just viewing my own jobs. I get access to all the documents and all the images that were added. So there's no permission issues because I could see them on the desktop version anyway. If I go back to my main screen, which is this one, I'm sharing the documents and images and things from here in the job details tab. And note that only people who are invited to this particular job can see these particular files. So in fact, I'll explain that better. Let's do this example. Let's say I log in as me. I've got two documents. One is shared to the Onsite app, one is not. Because I'm the main user, these, whether it's shared or not, means nothing to me. I log in, I see all available documents. Versus if you share it to an electrician, plumber, site supervisor, they only see what's shared to the app. And we do that so that you can distinguish from the client contracts or client bank details, etc. And doesn't need to be seen by your guys on site. So you wouldn't share it, but you would share stuff that's relevant. Bonus point here is you can share and unshare. So the case here would be, like, let's say I've got some plans or permit and there's a revision to something. I can just remove the file that was shared previously and add the new shared file. And the goal there is that the guys on site, not everyone, some of the users will use the app a bit grumpily. And you kind of got to drag them and push them together to use it. We don't want to make it any harder for them. So we just want to show them only the relevant documents, which is what we're sharing to them. Another comment, you are just better at communicating with Dan than the rest of us. Appreciate it. And someone else is feeling good that we're getting progress on the app. Yep, awesome. The app, when we released it, we got, as you'd imagine, a lot of feedback. We're also kind of fortunate to be in an industry where people aren't really that shy to tell us what they think. So that's great for us. We need to know what people think of it. So do give us feedback always. But yeah, we've definitely in the last probably 4 or 5 months pushed a whole bunch of stuff into the app specifically to try and bring it up to speed. Right on. All right, let's get out of that. Next from here, we've covered the documents, we've covered how to share them. Perfect. Let's go to daily logs. Now, this is another feature that part of it existed already, part of it's added. So the part that's in the main Buildxact, which is what I'm sharing at present, that's been there forever. The goal of this screen here is to capture all of the comments from anywhere. So it could be stuff I add, just straight in. No, whatever you want. It will also capture stuff that's added via the Onsite app. So if I play another game of sharing to my phone, now let's go back here. Perfect, we're seeing it, that's lovely. And I go into my job. On the top 2 tabs where I've got job details, the other one is daily log. And I will see in this, if I'm on site, I'll see whatever's shared from anywhere. So I would see potentially, that note I just made from the desktop version, it shows up here. If I'm a trade, I could use this for a few different uses, and I'll go through some of the more common ones, and there's always going to be bonus tips and tricks. But if we go back and add a post, note, you can add whatever images you want. And I'm just going to pop that open, and then you don't need to see all my holiday pics, so I'll close that one down just to show you that you can add all the images. You can take photos using the little camera button. And how we're seeing this get used. So some of our builders are going to their subcontractors and saying, hey, when you're done for the day, shoot us a picture just to see the progress. Others are doing it, hey, when you finish your task, send a few photos so we know you're done and we can check it off. We're also seeing some uses where the site foreman will, like I did in my example, take photos of defects or things that need rectifying so that whoever's doing the overall scheduling can get someone back in and fix up some work. Think of this as just almost a general message board. Anyone who's in the app for this job can contribute, like, comment, etc. I should mention, and I don't know if I really want to go back and forward to my screen again, but I'll just mention it for now. I won't go back to my computer screen. If you are getting images back to the main desktop Buildxact version, in fact, I'm going to have to share my screen for this one. Let's go back again. If you're sharing stuff back to the main Buildxact version, you can hit share from the daily logs. Oh, and I should mention, this is where we have different words in different places. Daily logs in Canada and the US, site diary in the UK and Australia and New Zealand, and anywhere else in the world. So if you're outside North America, you'll see this as site diary, or North America see it as daily logs. No idea why, but that's just how it happened. So the point I was previously making was, if you have an image in here and you hit share, you can share this directly into the client's portal. This is not a new function, it's been here for a while, but given that we're getting so many more people using this now that it connects to the app, it's worth re-raising. So the idea is, at least in my head, 99% of this daily log would be just for me and the guy and whoever's working on the job. I would pick the top stuff. So it could be that the whoever's installing appliances finished them off, took a photo of them all. I could show that onto the client and go, oven's in, look how good this looks. As a bonus point, and this is kind of preempting a question that may come up, because it's coming from a person on site, they might write something that's not the most client-friendly thing in the world. You get to edit that before it goes to the client. So you get to put your spin on it and describe it the way you would like. You're not bound by how it was described by the person on site. Awesome. So the next one, and reminder again, questions, keep them coming. So the next one is all into timesheets. So let's go for this one, back to my phone. Feels like I'm playing, it's like a game of tennis going back and forward. Let's do that, that one. Perfect, let's get rid of that. All right, so timesheets. Just lost my screen, there we go. Timesheets. So if I go back to the home screen, you will see a create timesheet button. This is, again, another point where it's different for me being the main user logging in versus crew. So if I go create timesheet, the biggest difference is I get a list of all my jobs. I only have one in my sample account here anyway, but I could perceivably put a timesheet against any job that's existing. If you have someone who's just invited to Dan's master bathroom job in Vail, Colorado, then that person can only do timesheets against that, as you'd expect. because otherwise they're putting it in the wrong spot. So running you through what information is required to do this timesheet, and just as always, a few odds and ends. So if you've used other timesheet apps out there, there's generally two methods that timesheets are entered. The I finished for the day, let's log my time method. And then there's the click to start, click to stop method. We only support at present the end of day method, where person sits in their truck at the end of the day, puts in a timesheet. Hey, I did 8:40, that'll do for now, till 3, awesome. Add break. So this isn't mandatory, but so this would be something that you'd kind of work out with your team, specifically as to how you enter it, because some businesses will take out the break from the pay, some don't. It's just how everything's done. So if they need to put it in, they do that. They pick the job. Everything below the job is optional. So this is, and I'm covering this in such a way because you, I suppose, depending on how like tech savvy you guys on site are, some of them will be really good at this, and some of them will give you the bare minimum. And I want to show you how to cater for both cases. So the minimum they need to tell you is which job. If you have it set up where you want your guys to assign it to the right category, let's just do flooring. Awesome, they select it. That just cuts down on your manual work when you're sending these, when you're approving the timesheets, which I'll show you in the next step. If you want them to select the item, even better. Again, it totally depends on who's entering this and how much you kind of trust their ability to put this stuff in the right place. That said, notes is optional, but I personally like having the idea of the timesheet coming in with all done, was quicker due to whatever. I just drank a lot of Red Bull. I don't know. You can put in whatever you like. Quicker than expected. It has spell check, which is good for people like me. Save. And what then happens, I get a confirmation my timesheet was done. Before I leave my phone and go back to the other one, it's worth noting that if I hit create timesheet again, I do have a history button in the top right. And what this does is gives me a history of all my timesheets. And you can see I've got little green ticks, orange ticks, and I've got gray ticks. Excuse me. This is just an indication of whether the timesheet has been approved or actioned on. So the gray ones, they're sitting in my main Buildxact. And this is where I'm going to play a bit more screen tennis. Let's go over here. They're sitting in my main Buildxact under jobs and imported timesheets. So because these two are still here, they show as gray on the phone app. They're logged, they're submitted, but nothing's happened with them yet. The ones that were orange were ones that I put in just for showing you stuff. If you click ignore, it shows that the timesheet's been actioned, but it's been removed. Once the timesheet gets put properly against the job, it shows as green on the phone app, so that whoever's looking at it knows that the cost has been allocated into the job. All right, so from here, we need to look at how to approve the timesheets, where it goes, and pay rates, which is, I'm sure, going to be a question that people will be asking. So I'll use this second one, which was the one I put in 2 seconds ago. So you can see meals, 10 minutes, and that reflects in the overall time. My shift length was a bit of a weird one, but 6 hours, 9 minutes. Notes are there. You can see that because I, on the phone app, put in more information, then more information shows up. So it just makes my job on the desktop side easier, resolving these and putting them in the right place. If the person gives you absolutely nothing and just the job and a note, then it's up to you to put it in the right place. And on the category and item and whether you need both topic, for those that have used the imported bills function, it's completely consistent with that. which means if I assign it only to a category in the job, I'm going to cheat a little bit actually and open up a second screen. I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. I should definitely let you know that I don't recommend people using multiple tabs, because what seems to happen is people get confused on which tab they're open, and then they look at one, they go, oh, my stuff's missing, and it's because it's on the other tab. But just to try and make this make more visual sense, if I'm looking at this timesheet allocation, the category is just the categories in here in my job. So flooring. If I don't have an item, I just get rid of it. Get rid of that, there we go. What will happen in the job is it'll add it as a brand new line. So it's allocating it to a category, which is great, but it's not allocating it against any one line. There's pros and cons of both ways for this. Personal preference, if you've got a labor to lay flooring line item, I think you should match it to it. If your labor is kind of just a big category that collects all the hours and it's kind of less intricate, I guess is the right word there, then it's fine to just put it straight into the category. And for example's sake, I'm going to do the ladder. I'm going to assign it to an item, create work order, and work order successfully created. Now, one thing I should have mentioned earlier was, or I did touch on, but I haven't come back to, is the pay rates. How do we figure that out? So let's go from here to me as a contact. In reality, this would be one of your guys, plumber, etc., whoever you want. Anecdotally, we are seeing more usage of it with internal staff for timesheets, simply because subcontractors, generally speaking, are just going to invoice you anyway, and the dollar allocation of how much it costs them comes in when you enter the invoice. Whereas guys on site, they just log timesheets, and the timesheet method is the best way to see the cost of running them in your project. So if we go contacts, I'm in here somewhere, and I believe that's me. Perfect. So there's a pay rate section under the contact. We have a default one, which is just what it's going to go to automatically. You can have as many different pay rates as you want. And the idea is we're looking at, hey, did they work a weekday, a weekend, public holiday, stat holiday, whatever you want to call it. Again, different words in different parts of the world. But you can have multiple rates depending on what shift they're doing. It could be that I know in some commercial jobs, the higher you go up on the skyscraper, not that Buildxact really builds skyscrapers, but there's danger money and things like that. You can set this up to kind of cater for those. Now, question, how integrated is this? Meaning, can we contrast this against the estimate versus actuals? Yes, awesome. Glad you asked. Thank you, Josh. In fact, you may have even typed that before I assigned the timesheet, but let's show you here. So I put that against flooring, and because I picked the specific line, it matches to a specific line. Like I said earlier, if I didn't pick that line, I would just get a new line below for labor, who did it, etc. And I'd then just look more at the variance over the category. But I kind of think if there's a line there to compare it to, you should compare it to that exact line. So to answer your question, yes, you can direct compare it. What have I forgotten? Only other one I've forgotten. Bit of an edge case, but when we first did this, we had some people ask, hey, I'm gonna just do this when I get back to the office. Do I have to pull my phone out? The initial answer was yes, and then we added this. So you can manually add work orders. I guess the other case is, let's say one of your crew is pretty old school and won't use an app, and just writes on a piece of paper or text message you. You can be on Buildxact and enter it for them, but you have to do it through the desktop version because that's where you can select who it goes against. Other than that, all the fields are the same. Beautiful. Now, we're clocking pretty good for time. Got two more topics left in about 20 minutes, but don't let me stop you asking questions. So if you do have stuff you want to ask me, as always, pop in, let me know. The next two are selections and digital signatures. So this, am I sharing the right screen? Let me triple check. Yes, I am. I'm going to first of all just cover how the selections kind of get set up, where they come from. And I'm actually going to, some of you may have been around long enough to remember our earlier version of selections. So if you do, if that is you, you can pretty much forget most of that. The rebuilt one is, in my opinion, a lot better than that one. And we've structured it in a totally different way. The early version, it needed a little bit more love. So let's have a look at selections and where they are. So they live under the job, under the selections tab. And I'm going to first talk about, before I focus on what is this screen doing, I'm going to focus on how the stuff get here. So the tile and the tile shower walls, that was automatic. That came from my estimate. So if I go way back to my estimate costings, and what will I use? Let's just go this one. Oh, in fact, it's accepted. I'm going to just show you one that I have already. Tile. So can I come work for you? Depends where you're based. I kind of like where I live, but I appreciate the offer. I think you'd be a good person to work with. Awesome. So from here, the allowances, that's what I was getting to. Anything that was initially selected as an allowance back in the estimate, that thing is going to automatically feed into selections. And the logic is that if an allowance is for an unknown, or it could be, allowance for particular flooring, or an allowance for an oven, because we're just giving you a rough quote, client, and by the time we get into the job, we'll pick an oven, we'll pick whatever you want. But we pick it up initially as anything that was marked as that placeholder type item allowance. And again, different wording, different parts of the world. If you're in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, you will see this as a PC item. So the button will be P, not A, be PC item or PS item, which just has different legal connotations in those parts of the world. But A for allowance, tick that, it'll start showing up in your selections so that when we get to here, it's ready for the client to start picking stuff. Now, looking at the selections tab, the first thing that initially confused me when I looked at this was there's a lot of arrows just going down, 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 down. There's actually 3 levels of this. So when it pushes it in, it's taking from the estimate the original category name. Awesome. So that when we get to see what the client sees, it means it's grouped into tiles, appliances, painting, etc., which is kind of logical. We have the item itself. So that was the estimate item that was an allowance. We need to pick the tile shower walls. And then I went ahead and added options. So options are what we're referring to as literally things the client can pick. You can do these a number of ways. You can do them in from scratch. And let's just go tiles. If you are connected to the Home Depot, which some of you will be, it'd be just the US users. But if you are connected to Home Depot, or for that matter, really any supplier, when you bring it in, it will bring the image as well as the price. So this now connects to the catalogs area, which is awesome. Main reason for mentioning Home Depot in this is they were good enough to put images against everything they share with us, or share with their pro users, more to the point. So that just makes it easy. You don't have to go hunt for an image, and I like that. So you put the options in, add whatever notes you want. So you might put in, this would be my preference. Whatever, hey, this one looks terrible, don't pick it, whatever you want. So this little side note button just adds an extra line and the note displays to the client. Once you're kind of done setting this up, if it doesn't show an image, can you upload one? 100%. Yeah, so like using this one, you just, same as the specifications tab, you can just click the image right here and load whatever you want. So that auto image is more if it's already in your catalog. So as you're adding stuff in, you're going to get this red message up the top. Hey, you've unshared changes. The easiest way to think about this is we want to keep in sync what your selections looks like versus what the client's one looks like, which I'll dive into now. There it is, and I'll spend a few more seconds in there in a moment. So this is literally saying something on this screen is not showing for you, but the client's not seeing it. It's specifically that one. I would go share changes, and it does a summary of changes, which I really like, because if there's a lot of selections, you want to know why am I being prompted to do this, so you can check what's sharing before you actually share it. Bonus point is if you go to share and no one's in the portal, you can naturally invite them. Perfect. Actually, quick bonus point I should do as well. Another question we're getting in relation to selections is how do I know what the client's seeing? And in my test one, I made myself a client just so I could show you it. In your case, I would much more lean towards the preview button, and that gives you a view of their client portal with some exceptions. The exceptions are you can't select items because you're previewing. Makes sense. You can't choose it for them. They have to do it. Although you can 100% go from this screen and select items if the client has verbally given you that indication. The other thing you can't do with preview, go there, is you can't message yourself, which makes sense. That was a funny one because we never thought people would message themselves as the client, but people did, and we had to lock that one down. Awesome. So let's go into what the client sees. Now, pretty much most of the information I put in, like the notes, the allowance, the image, all shows up for the client. Of particular note is the due date, which is found, share that, is found here. So I really like the idea of being able to give the client the sense of urgency or which order they need to be paying attention to things. So as we go through, they'll see different dates. And as I go into shower, I've only got one in each category, but I might have like tile shower wall, tile bathroom floor. They'll be grouped into different segments to indicate the different parts. Question, can they select, hence approve from a contractual standpoint? Yeah, they can. So if they go select, item selected, and I'm going to kind of explain this in two ways. So can they go select and push it back to you? Yes, 100% they can. You're going to get alerts against the jobs tab as that happens. Selections have been made, shows it up there. Such and such person selected this. Awesome, let's go view. Dismiss. So they selected, which one was it? That one there. Now, where it comes into approval, and this is where some topics kind of gray and overlap into each other. When we have something that's selected, the way we actually have this take effect on our costings, invoicing, and job overall is via a change order. So this add change order button shows up when you're ready to settle this item. Another verbiage thing, change order is variation in Australia, New Zealand, UK. So if you're watching from there, that's you. When you add it as a change order, it will go think, added. You'll go into the change orders, and from here on, it works exactly the same as any other change order you've ever done. You'd go into it, and I'll get to the point of this question, then I'll come back and do some of this more detail. The point I'm getting to specifically for your question, Josh, can they digitally accept it? Yes, you can share it to them. And when you share it to them, you have the option to have them digitally sign it. So that means that the process would be they hit select on their client portal, comes back to you, you put it through to a change order, and then if you want them to sign off on the actual document, it's a digital signature, then you can send this to them. This will be different depending on where you are in the world and different client relationships. So I kind of lean more towards getting people to sign off anything that's, especially if it's got a dollar value, just to cover yourself. But there's some, like in Australia, for example, there's some legislation around if they're making a small change that's the result of a selection and there's like a dollar threshold, you don't need to get them to sign. It's pre-agreed to. So just take the path that makes the most sense for you, I guess is the short answer there. Now, what have I covered? What have I missed from that? We did client selections. Oh, I did forget one thing before I get to the change orders. There's this option says, hey, can't find it, request it. Clients can select, can add their own suggestions. We want them to add as much as possible so that you know what they're talking about. So website, links, pictures, whatever. It goes through as a request to you and you have to go, yes, this is okay, mainly to cover the issue where the client, clients, like you can understand why clients make mistakes like this, but if you've got a cavity for an oven that's 900 mil or an imperial, whatever that is in metric in imperial, and they pick the wrong size oven for the cavity, you should be able to say, you should have the opportunity to approve it or decline it because it doesn't fit. So if they do this, it goes as a request to you so that you can tell them it's not going to fit, we're not buying it. All right, back to the change orders. So we mentioned how we got here. We went from selection, we said add change order, and it pulls through all the changes. A side note is I did this just for one change order, which was one selection. It's foreseeable that you could let all the selections happen and then do change order and have one ginormous change order with all the differences on it. One thing that I really want to highlight, because I think this is super important, is this change order automatically has a negative item and a positive item. So the negative was what I put in the original contract. And what we're doing is saying, hey, the allowance that was originally here, it's out. We're now substituting it for the actual picked item, and this resolves the dollar difference if they pick different items. We've touched on how you can share it and they can digitally sign it. For the sake of time, I'm going accepted. And this bit I'll be very brief on because it's existing stuff and it's nothing new. But I do want to highlight that those change orders will start to show in your invoices. And that's how we settle the dollar difference based on different selections they make. Awesome. Now, 5 minutes. Okay, I can do this. Let's go through the digital signatures. If we go a little bit over the half-hour mark, it's not the end of the world, so don't let me stop you asking questions. But what I'm going to do is share this change order and show you the digital acceptance process that I was talking about just a moment ago. So this is Tiles. I think I may have misnamed the other one. Tiles. Let's go save and share. Digital signature. It's going to, let's just make sure it goes to me. As always, with change orders, you can put them into portals if you want. If you do put it into a portal, the digital signature can get done through the portal versus the one I'm doing, which is going through an email. So turn that off. Share, perfect. So this is, oops, that's because I said yes to the client portal. In fact, I should point this out. If you're not already aware, once stuff's in the client portal, that's it, can't take it out. You can revise it like you can an email. So email is kind of the model we're going on here. But if it does get shared into the portal, you can't take it out, the client can't take it out. And that's so that in the case that there is any issue, it acts as a bit of a history log. So share that. And I'm going to cheat a little bit. So this is me just being impatient and not waiting for the email, plus showing you a bonus thing. Communications or this little email button will both allow you to share. Sorry, will allow you to see what's been shared outwards from Buildxact. Difference is communications, everything. This one is just for this particular project. And that actually bought me enough time for the email anyway, so let's show you the email. So they'll see this, change order, D&C Contracting, my fake company, has attached the following change order. That's the ID of the order. You can also view it in the client portal if it's been shared there. View and sign. And this will take you here. Naturally, they could also just navigate to change orders here and they could get to the same place. Great, looks good, digitally sign. So they do similar to your Amazon package, scribble your signature, sign and accept. Builder will be notified. Awesome. You as the builder get an email. You also get a notification under the, let's refresh that, under the jobs tab, because it's my account partly is still set to Australia. It'll say change order for you, not variation. And the lucky last point on this, which is a question I get a lot. Hey, if it came to it, how would I prove that the client signed it and accepted it? Great question. So back in job details, there's digital signatures here. We will list, and this is a link, you can click it and it goes back to the actual change order. We'll list change order 5, change order 10, change order 50 against when it was sent, who it was sent to, who approved it, and then you go view sign change order. On the screen, it displays like that. If you download it or print it, let's not put it there, let's put it into a fake folder. It downloads like this, where we have the signature and the who accepted it literally just squished together. We do the same exact thing for quotes if they digitally accept those, which they also can. And this will act as the record for both of you. There will also be some emails flying around, so if you need extra backup in a real pinch, you can pull the emails that were sent saying that someone accepted it. We also send the clients their acceptance emails. Awesome. Question. Yes, we have come a long way in the last 2 years. I'm assuming we can upload a change order template of sorts. Good question. This is one thing that actually we're not really doing as yet. So if I was to print this change order just for fun, we have our own preset template and then we adjust it based on your branding. So the heading is all the same, your logos, your details all drop in there, plus the details unique to that particular change order. Beyond that, it's actually not that changeable. So I have had scenarios, really not that common, but scenarios where people want to add extra wording or stuff to it. If that is you, back in here, the details box here goes to the details box there. And because the wording down here or the verbiage is saying, I accept this change order and the work described above, then anything, the way that it's been used is anything that's put on this page is part of the acceptance. So by that, you can actually go and add extra details and the client's agreeing to those as well. But yeah, not as yet for custom templates for variations / changes, change orders, or invoices is the other one we get asked about for that. Awesome. Well, that is a long hour. There's a lot of information. I hope you've made it the whole way through. There's only 2 or 3 people who've dropped off, so congrats to the rest of you for making it the whole way. If there's any final questions, go for it. I'm all ears. And to buy you some time, if you need time to type those, I'm going to do my thank yous in advance. So where were the details again? Yeah, good question. Let's go back to here. The details under the change orders are this box here. So it's when you actually create the change order, you've got this details box, which might include, please note that we're ordering these from Italy and shipping might take forever, whatever. You'll have a better idea than me, I think, per job, what you want to put in there. But back to the thank yous, and I'll hop back and forward as questions come in. Appreciate you guys all taking time out of your day. I'm sure you've got a fair bit on, as I did today. So I appreciate you taking time out. Hope you learned something. Thanks, Josh, again. I appreciate the kind words. You guys have a great rest of your week, great weekend. And as always, reach out as you need help from us. We are here to do that. Thanks so much. Talk soon.